In our first story, former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapa has confronted outspoken lawyer Martin Pebu over what she describes as unfair comments about her regarding her case with the official or the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Now, earlier, an Accra High Court granted her application to expedite the hearing of the confirmation of seizure and freeze of her account from October 18. Lord Ido Asare reports.
Lawyers of Cecilia Dapa and her husband had argued that the application to abridge the time for the hearing of the case had been necessitated by undue hardships, stress, and embarrassments caused by the OSP suit. Lead counsel for the couple, Victoria Bath, told the court that the Office of the Special Prosecutor had failed to serve them early despite filing the processes on September 11. She noted that the OSP's application was a repetition of the previous one dismissed by the court on August 31. But lawyers of the Special Prosecutor, led by Esatete, argued that the substantive application was a fresh process unfettered by any prior considerations, adding that it stemmed from events of September 5 and not on July 24. Things got heated within the corridors of the court after the court rose for about 5 hours in anticipation of the ruling of the application. Lawyers for Madame Dapa hit out at Martin Pebu, a private legal practitioner who has in his sentiment as a panelist on media programs, condemned the actions of the former minister. In his ruling, Justice Edward Chum noted that further delay of hearing the matter would be inimical to the welfare of Cecilia Dapa and her husband, since the OSP took over a month to select a return date to court despite filing the processes on September 11. Cecilia Dapa will now go to court on Thursday for the hearing of the determination of whether her assets and accounts should be freezed and seized. The court is also expected to take the plea of Madame Dapa in respect of one count of failure to declare property and income. Lord Idwasare, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, Anti-Corruption Crusaders are advocating for a new legal framework to regulate the declaration of assets by public officials. The current lack of an executive or effective law prevents anti-corruption agencies from determining if properties acquired by public officials can be attributed to their income.
Public officers under Ghana's constitution must declare all assets or liabilities within 3 months after coming into office and at the end of every 4 years or term of office. This applies to various offices including president and vice president and ministers of state. The Commissioner for Human Rights and Administrative Justice is required to take appropriate action if he concludes that this provision has not been complied with. Anti-corruption campaigners believe a more robust system can be put in place.
The only thing that we can do for us in Crusaders Against Corruption is to ask for the bill on the lifestyle audit bill to be signed before this president leaves office, not after just the last few days that he's living. He should sign it and let us work with it. Let us have a lifestyle audit. Let's see what you do to be able to acquire all those plush buildings that are coming up at the Pedrasi area and God knows where. Those are important things.
TV3 News, in partnership with Human Rights and Governance Center, will on Thursday, October 12, hold a national dialogue on fighting public sector corruption with focus on making a case for an effective asset declaration law. Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuan-Yeboah, Shraj Commissioner Joseph Whittal, former Auditor General Daniel Demelovo, and legal practitioner Martin Pebu will participate in a dialogue at the Executive Center here at TV3.
Now, moving on, Article 162 of the 1992 Constitution mandates the media, in the discharge of its role as a fourth estate of the realm, to have continuous engagement with stakeholders to help diagnose issues hampering the progress of the state. TV3, in light of the requirement, presents the October edition of its Thought Leadership series, which comes off today, October 12, 2023, at Media General's Executive Theatre in Kanda. Now, the event anchored on the theme Fighting Public Sector Corruption in Ghana, making a case for an effective assets declaration law, promises to be educative and exciting due to the high-profile guests penciled to be hosted by Alfred Akrofi Okante, and will be live on TV3 at 10 a.m. with guests like former Auditor General Daniel Yaodomlevo, Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tia Yeboah, private legal practitioner Martin Tebu, and Joseph Whittal, the Shraj Commissioner, promises to be one of the best assembly of brains on a chosen topic in the country. The focus of the program is to prevent political corruption through assets declaration by the public office holders. On to some more stories. The National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, has launched an operation to evacuate residents after massive flooding in parts of the Volta region. Several communities in the Central and South Tong districts have been submerged after the spillage of excess water from the Akosombo Dam by the Volta River Authority.
In the water, that structure, which used to stand tall here, is now collapsed. This is the situation here at Abaduwe. This is a house. About 3 structures here are totally collapsed. This is how serious it is here. I don't want us to go far because I'm scared. The electric wires are in the water, and you can see we are still here on Canaan. I'm with residents, and there's a Church of Pentecost also submerged in water, and the whole compound, it's
Downstream, the Volta Lake are bearing the brunt after the Volta River Authority began spilling excess water 2 weeks ago to prevent the possible damage of the Akosombo Dam, which is the main source of hydroelectric power generation in the country. The flooding has led to the destruction of property running into millions of cedis. Affected communities include Awadiwe, Kome, Old Dapa, all in Central Tong, and several others in South Tong. Displaced residents who are counting their losses have resorted to the use of canoes as a mode of transportation.
As at 6 p.m. yesterday, we realized that the water level was increasing. And so together, the youth leaders and the assembly members, the community leaders were on watch to monitor the situation. As at 8 p.m., we realized that the level of the water is coming increasingly. And so we started mobilizing people out of their homes to a safe place. But before this morning, the water has taken over half of the community. So many buildings are currently submerged in water, and we have counted more than 15 buildings that have collapsed. Fortunately for us, there were no life lost because we started the evacuation process since last night, and so there were no lives lost, but a lot of properties were lost.
The Volta River Authority in September initiated a controlled discharge at the Akosombo and Tong dams due to the continuous increase in the water level caused by substantial inflows. Other regions with communities either close to the Volta River or lying along the path of rivers likely to be affected are Savannah, Bono East, Greater Accra, and Eastern. Now, 2 retired military officers have strongly criticized Ghana's president, questioning his leadership style. Founding member of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, and former National Security Advisor, Brigadier General Nuno Mensah, have warned that President Akufo-Addo's direction is dangerous for Ghana's democracy and recommend that he relinquishes his presidency.
The 2 senior citizens and ex-military chiefs who were on a mission to reshape the path Ghana's democracy should take under the auspices of the Ghana Today coalition were forthright in the description of the protesters seeking the removal of the Bank of Ghana governor.
Governor Ernest Addison should be told in the face that his lack of courtesy towards the demonstrators It's a clear exhibition of disrespect in the highest order. Elsewhere in the developed world, public officers like him, whether elected or appointed, tend to adopt a more questionable posture of resignation.
Many have deemed corruption within the current government as significant despite the president's refusal to admit it.
The Akufo-Addo I knew had numerous dialogues and demonstrations with is not the Akufo-Addo who is now president. How do ministers hold statues of cash in foreign and local currencies in their homes, acquire properties in prime areas of Accra and other parts of the country, drive the most luxurious cars, and live extravagantly, and expect our youth, who remain largely without meaningful employment, to be satisfied?
An enraged Yahota Meklo questioned President Akufo-Addo's stewardship.
If you can't do the work, resign. Just resign and go away. Anybody who takes over this country after this government, if he fails to let the government, this particular government, account for what for what's done in terms of property and physical cash, that person will be my number one enemy.
Former National Security Advisor, Brigadier Retired General Nunu Mensah, claimed the looting of state resources under the current regime appears to be making a coup rife.
Go and see whether those people are overthrown there. Those did they deserve to be overthrown? I don't encourage military to take over power. I don't do that. But when we are given power, manage the country in such a way that the military will not feel comfortable interfering with our government.
Now, the University of Ghana says the directive to withdraw students who fail to obtain a cumulative grade point average of 1.00 or below is in the best interest of the students and the school. Director of Academic Affairs of the University, Lydia Nyankodankwa, says the implementation of this directive will motivate students to realign their academic goals. Noble Crosby-Annan reports.
The University of Ghana says it will sack all level 200 and 300 students with less than 1.00 CGPA in new stringent modifications to its regulations.
We want our students to succeed. There are few students who actually get to level 400 and have to graduate and don't have the necessary grade point to graduate. And so from level 100, it turns out the person doesn't do well. Level 200 keeps going to level 400, wastes money on academic fees, and at the end of it has nothing to show for it. And that we feel is not fair to our students. So not only do we want to make sure that the students do well, we also want to make sure that parents, financiers of students do not waste their money.
For some students of the University of Ghana, this should serve as a wake-up call.
This is something we are supposed to face. It's not something that is supposed to draw us down. We are supposed to take it in good faith. Let it help us to learn.
It clearly tells you that you need to up your game.
I think they're also helping us to study hard because some of us, we are chilling too much, right? Betting, watching series. Some of us don't even come to write exam. Some too come late. Some don't write at all. Some don't go for lectures.
However, some would rather want the university to investigate students' poor performance.
The university should sit down and identify some of the problems. If it is just 2% of the whole university student population who are being withdrawn from the university should stop giving courses that maybe students did not choose. Parents should also stop choosing courses for their awards in the university. You choose a course for me, I came to the university, now it is beyond my strength. I can't study. And I'm failing. I'm being withdrawn from the university. Who are you going to blame?
The timing of the notice of withdrawal elicited different reactions from the students.
this is the best time as far as the semester has started. You need to lace your shoes very well, tighten your belt to steady hard.
I think the timing was quite maybe late because already students are in school.
This should have come maybe before we got to campus, so that those who are going to be withdrawn will not have to go through the stress of reporting to school.
It's very, very inconvenient, and we apologize for that. We know that that creates difficulties for them. But as you know, since COVID, we've been trying to normalize, because we didn't have enough time, following the end of this last academic year to get this done. That's why it seems as if the timing is a bit late.
According to the university, affected students will have fees paid for the academic year refunded.
What we expect to do is to give them the entire amount of money that they have paid, because it's not their fault that they didn't know. They didn't know that they were going to be withdrawn. Everybody will just get the monies they've paid for the 2023-2024 academic year. If you have benefited from teaching for the previous years, we cannot refund that money.
The latest directive from the University of Ghana to withdraw students who perform poorly has generated a lot of reactions from the students. For TV3 News, Noble Crosby-Annan, University of Ghana.
Now, the Conference of Heads of Assistant Schools CHAS has appealed to government to allow schools to procure their own food items instead of through suppliers under the free SHS policy. Now, President of CHAS, Reverend Father Stephen Owusu-Setre, says this, aside preventing food shortages in schools, will be economically prudent. He was speaking at the 61st Conference of CHAS in Accra.
National Food Buffer Stock Company is responsible for distributing food to schools under government's free SHS policy, but inadequate and delayed supply have hindered its smooth implementation. The Conference of Heads of Assisted Schools recommends that government scraps the National Food Buffer Stock from the supply of food items to senior high schools to reduce the perennial food shortage.
CHAS also passionately wish to reiterate our plea to management to allow the various schools procure the food items to feed the students. This has become necessary because of how at times some suppliers disappoint us in delivering some food items on time and in time for varied reasons. We are of firm belief that procuring the food items by ourselves from our traditional suppliers will curb the acute shortages of food items in our schools and also reduce the logistical and operational challenges that come with it.
The school heads expressed concerns about rising indiscipline among senior high students and requested government's discretionary powers to enforce discipline in schools despite the new code of conduct.
CHAS is concerned about the increasing rates of indiscipline that have bedeviled most of our senior high schools of late. While we acknowledge the recently approved code of conduct for students in senior high schools, CHAS is of the view that the heads of these institutions must be given some discretionary powers to handle more serious issues at the level of the Board of Governors. This, we believe, will efficiently and in a fast manner fast-track justice delivery in our.
Now, the National Electoral Commission of Liberia has started releasing provisional results of yesterday's elections, which had about 19 political parties contesting to be president. Incumbent George Weah, who is seeking re-election for another 6-year term, is optimistic of retaining power. This is the first time Liberians have gone to the polls since United Nations troops left completely. Now, the last batch left in 2017 when the country had the election that brought George Weah. Edward Blamo is a Liberian journalist with an update of the mood of the country.
Generally, the process, went smoothly. There are a few instances of vote delay, as even the National Elections Commission announced today that there were some places in the southeast, in Sino County, that people could not vote because river overflow, that the bridges were cut off from the rest of the town, and votes had to be delayed. The Elections Commission has given up to 15 days time period in the law, in the elections law. And so we expect that within the period of 15 days, we should have the final results. There hasn't been any, statement from any political leader or major opposition leader. There's been snippets of congratulatory messages from representative candidates, members of parliament, some of whom have already gotten their results and they're congratulating their friends or their contenders. But it's not the same with the presidential election. Everybody's still, holding tight. There's not been, a lot of posts or a lot of, writings about the outcome from major political parties like the CDC of George Weah and the Unity Party of Joseph Boakai.
And that's all for the 6 a.m. news here on TV3. My name is Judith Brown. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with a new day.